welcome to this edition of Miles Ahead, and this time we're looking at the rather stunning looking, certainly striking looking Lamborghini Huracan EVO Spyder. So this is the all-wheel drive version. Lamborghini of course did release a rear-wheel drive version of the Huracan as well, but we'll start with some facts and figures on this car in particular. A number of options fitted to this, so the price is £274,765 all in. It's £218,617 before you dive into the options. What we'll do in this video, we're going to have a walk around, look at the exterior, obviously highlight a few of those options because there are several fitted to it, have a look at the interior, then take it out for a drive, and then we can listen to that rather wonderful, well, absolutely fantastic actually, naturally aspirated 5.2 litre V10 engine. So let's dive straight in. So the first option to note is this blue Mehit paint. So the prices I'm going to quote you on the options are without VAT. So if you don't live in the UK or you're a tax dodger, these will be the prices that you pay. So the blue Mehit paintwork comes in at £11,250, so that's the first thing to note. While we're at the front as well, we've got the only storage compartment in the car here as well. So it's very much a supercar rather than a GT. As you can see, we've managed to get a bag and a jacket in there. So yeah, not the focus of this car. So you've got the matrix LED headlights there. We've also got this front gloss black package here that comes in at £1,300. I think that offsets quite nicely with this Mehit blue paintwork. As we come around the side, just notice the angle of this windscreen when we get round here. I mean, it's just unbelievable really. I mean, you can see out of it though. So we've got the 20-inch forged rims. They come in at £4,500. It's fitted with the yellow brake calipers, as you can see. Really like the styling and the detailing on these wheels. I think that it's really good. One thing to note, this paintwork, we've done about 60 miles in this car. It does pick up the dirt, so you are going to be spending quite a lot of time cleaning your Lamborghini here. I didn't realise quite the extent of it until we decided to come here and start shooting this video, so apologies for that. One thing to address while we're on the walk around, so I'm 6'2". I've noticed it mentioned in a lot of other reviews of specifically the EVO Spyder that if you're anything over 6 foot, you're going to struggle to fit in it. I must say I've not found things too bad. I can climb in there. I've not got the seat all the way back even. There's a bit more giving now. I've had it in that position. There's plenty of adjustability in the steering wheel. I've found pretty comfortable driving position, I must say. And my head just about in line with here, so you don't get too ruffled by the elements when you have the roof off if you get a nice day like today. As we come around the back, so obviously it being the Spyder, the roof stows away in here. With the coupe version, you can spec the glass planes across here so you can see into the V10. You can't do that on this. But as we come around, so the gloss black effect on the rear diffuser and the back here, that comes in at £4,400. And then yeah, the exhaust just sitting prominently, angrily and threateningly in the back there, and they do make a wonderful sound. So stick with us for the drive along section. But before we get to that, let's have a look at the interior. So this is the interior of the Lamborghini Huracan EVO. I quite like it in here. I think it's nice, classically laid out. But before we have a close look, let's have a look at the key. So you get the Lamborghini logo up top there and on the back, but otherwise, yeah, could do better Lamborghini. It's not the special key you might expect for £275,000. But anyway, I've got my list handy because there's a few options to go through in here. So the Evo trim Alcantara we see around here, that's £2,070 optional extra. And these sports seats come in at £5,310. So you can see there's some carbon fibre around here, bit of leather clad padding there, and then obviously into the Alcantara and everything else. So they're not electrically adjustable, they're manual, so you've got the lever there and you pull that to yeah, push the seat up and down, and that's about it really. All this is finished in Alcantara, so all the bits that you touch, they feel nicely done, well thought out, everything's well positioned. We've got a glove box in here, not the biggest as you probably expect, but it's got the manual in there and all that. You can turn the passenger airbag on and off if you need to take small children for whatever reason. The roof takes 17 seconds to go up. You can do that at speeds of up to 31 miles an hour. So again, that's quite handy. But we should probably have a look at the actual driving dynamics and ergonomics of the car. So I will just fire it up. So if we come around here, we'll get an early sight of that V10 as well. So yeah, starts with the intent that it continues with as we go along. So with the Huracan, you get the touch screen down here, so that's taken from the Audi family down here. So that's all quite nice. One minor complaint: if you've got the roof on, sunny, the glare from it is quite intense, which sort of renders it unusable in those patches of driving. But there's a couple of USB sockets down here so you can hook up your phone and that sort of thing. But the smartphone interface and connected services is £2,440. But yeah, if you want to listen to your music and take advantage of the £2,520 Sentinel Lamborghini sound system, which is very good, yeah, you're probably going to want to have that functionality on there. You may have noticed this box here as well. This is part of the Lamborghini telemetry kit that comes in at £3,600. So if you're going to be doing track days, which I suspect you would absolutely want to do if you own this car, probably worth having that as well. But yeah, as we come around and have a look at the actual driving positions, so all the functionalities on the steering wheel. So the lights and stuff are sorted down here, but to flash, you press that button on here, and to have the full beams on and off, you hold that down and that keeps them on. Even the indicators are down here, so you have to move them across. They are self-cancelling, as I found when I picked them up on the A40 yesterday. It took me 30 seconds to work out how to turn them off when you're just changing lane on the motorway. You press that down and they turn off there, and you've got the menus for going through like your trip and all that sort of stuff on there. Cruise control here, windscreen wipers are there. It's all pretty easy to use, and you've got these wonderful paddles here as well, nice metal, really beg to be used. But most importantly on this steering wheel, you've got driver modes here. So as you can hear the exhaust, the engine burbling away in Strada, as I flick it through to Sport, just opens up a couple of valves and it just makes things much louder. You get the orange effects on the screen here. Flick it through to Corsa, gets a little bit louder still, and you get an even more sporting dash up there. But flick it back through Sport, through Strada, and it's all nice and calm. And that's probably enough for the interior. It's probably time we find out what this thing's like to drive. So what's a Lamborghini Huracan EVO like to drive? We're in Strada at the moment. Let's flick it through to Sport, drop it down a couple, you can immediately hear the revs pick up, that engine go. And it sounds like a Formula One car. Those pops and bangs, I mean, it's just such an addictive sound, that. It's savage. I mean, that will never ever fail to put a smile on your face. That it is extraordinary. The pickup is absolutely sensational. Right, I'm going to have to quieten things down so I can actually talk about it. So flick it back through into Strada. There's a rear quarter window that opens behind us, which lets more of that V10 in. So we'll close that, we'll get things back down into normal, put it back into auto as well, and just calms down. I mean, yeah, it's 630 horsepower, about 560 newton meters of torque, I think, 5.2 litre naturally aspirated V10, 0 to 60 in 3.1 seconds. It is every inch a supercar, this car, and it feels like it as well. I mean, that's the best thing you can say about it. But once we've dialed it down a bit, we're now doing 47 miles an hour in 7th gear, and we're doing about 1500 RPM, and it's quite quiet, quite pleasant. The ride is quite firm, which takes you by surprise. We just went over a bumpy bit of road there, actually, because it's so pliant the rest of the time. You sort of forget what you're driving momentarily. It's not until you really sort of start to push it that you're like, oh yeah, this is still a supercar. So it does have the 7-speed, sorry, slow down for a bump there. It does have the 7-speed dual clutch transmission. So the Aventador had the single clutch, and that had really, really violent upshift. So you push it towards the red line, pull back on the paddle, and it just thrusts you back into your seat. This is much more civilized, and as a result, it's much more usable in an everyday setting. This is a car that you could use every day should you so wish. So if you want to do a bit of posing on the King's Road, then head out to your favorite track to do a bit of track day action, you can do all of that in this car. It does just cater for all of those needs. So it's got the Lamborghini adaptive steering, and that does a really interesting job, actually. So we're at slow speeds at the moment. I'm just pulling off a 3-point turn here, and honestly, the steering is so light. I saw it compared in another review. I don't know if you remember the old Fiat Puntos. They used to have this city steering option, and it would just immediately make the steering go super light and all of that sort of business. And this does pretty much exactly the same thing. I mean, it is so light that you just don't expect it to be, really. And then it gets heavier as you start to pick up speed. It is electrically assisted power steering this, so it's not feedback central. You compare it to like the McLarens, for example, which still use a hydraulic setup. The feedback's, you know, is incomparable. It's not there by comparison, but it is very precise and it's just sharp enough. I think it's pretty well judged. Well, it's very well judged actually for the setup of the car, and I do quite like that. And it's got all-wheel steering as well, which is very useful to have in a car this sort of size, particularly when you're in car parks and that sort of thing. Just makes the manoeuvrability of it that little bit easier. But really it's all about hitting the open road in this. I mean, I really like that naturally aspirated V12 in the Aventador. That was obviously a fantastic engine. It sounds like some sort of Norse god when it really starts to roar. It's just something about the roar in this naturally aspirated V10. We reviewed the Lexus LC500 convertible in the last video, and that's a naturally aspirated V8, and that's an engine I adore. I love that engine, I think it sounds fantastic. But this, we'll have another go through, we might as well. We'll open that back window. So it's a hell of a way to sign off, isn't it? Drop it through the gears. Oh, just sounds so sweet. Bringing the carbon ceramic brakes into play a little bit there as well. They're fitted as standard actually. You don't have to put your hand in your pocket for those bad boys. You just never get bored of that. It's just, I can't think and speak at the same time when doing it. I mean, it's complete sensory overload. I mean, it's just everything you'd want a supercar to be, this really, and just delivers in spades. It's a really impressive car, and there's a lot of grip to work with as well. I mean, it being the four-wheel drive, not driven the rear-wheel drive Evo, I think you just get a bit more confidence from the all-wheel drive setup than you do versus a rear-wheel drive. But you know, in the drive, it's got all the torque vectoring and that sort of stuff as well fitted to it. I mean, a dry day like this, I mean, it does just grip. You can really lean on it in corners with confidence. When it's a little bit wetter, I had it out last night when it was raining. Because of the lack of feedback through the steering, you're perhaps not aware of when traction's braking at the rear wheels, that sort of thing. You know, but in the dry, yeah, absolutely superb, this car. Probably been waffling on too long now. It's all about that engine. If you only bought it for the engine, that would be enough. You'd be happy enough. And that it does everything else besides as well is very much an added bonus and justifies the cost. This is the second biggest seller in the Lamborghini range. The Urus, I think, sold about 5,500 units in 2021. This came second at just over 3,000, then the Aventador at about 900. That's global sales figures. You can sort of see why this has been preferred to the Aventador. It's a little bit cheaper for a start. It doesn't have the same theatrics as the Aventador. I describe it as an Aventador light in many respects. And that sounds like I'm damning it with faint praise, because I'm not at all. I love this car. I think it's absolutely superb, and I can see why it's sold so well. But it's just that V10, you'd never get bored of hearing that, and it feels every inch a supercar. So yeah, you know, is it worth 275 grand? Absolutely. If you've got that sort of money and you're after this sort of entertainment and theatre, you've obviously got a lot of choice. We reviewed the McLaren 720S as well. That had the better steering. It's arguably a bit more livable, there's a bit more storage space and that sort of thing, but as an outright supercar, this has definitely got the McLaren licked on the looks. I mean, you notice this thing coming. It's just, and then yeah, if you don't see it, you certainly hear it. Yeah, as you can probably tell, I have been quite taken with this car. Really like it, and yeah, if you're lucky enough to be able to afford one, good luck to you. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please hit that subscribe button as well. We've got loads of videos on the channel, and we've got loads more coming up. Change of pace next time. We've got the Genesis GV90 SUV. Then we're going electric with the Mercedes EQC. And then we've got the brand new BMW M3 coming up. So looking forward to that. So please hit subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Thanks.